Chosen one, you are no longer the voice that rushes to be heard. You are no longer the echo of a world addicted to noise. There is a sacred hush within you now, a silence that commands attention not by force, but by depth. You have been shaped not by approval, but by absence, of applause, of comfort, of the safety others take for granted. And that silence in you was carved slowly, not gifted. It was forged in moments where you stood alone, holding your breath in rooms that never knew how to receive you. But you didn't collapse. You didn't abandon yourself to fit. You learned to remain, to root, to wait. And in that waiting you discovered that silence is not weakness. It is command without performance. Now when you move through the world, you do not fill space with noise to feel significant. You do not speak just to prove that you exist. You speak when truth is needed. You act when peace calls for strength. Your silence now is full of sound. It's just the kind most people have forgotten how to hear. It's the sound of a soul in alignment, the sound of integrity pressing through skin, the sound of a man who has stood in the fire and refused to scream, not because it didn't burn, but because he knew the flame could not destroy what was eternal in him. This silence is not cold, and it is not distant. It is magnetic, because it does not beg, it does not explain, it simply is. And those around you, especially women who are sensitive to authenticity, feel the shift instantly. You are not walking in to be seen. You are walking as someone who already sees. That is what changes everything. You no longer extract energy, you stabilize it. You no longer disturb the room, you center it. The stillness you carry is so rare it unsettles the performative. It confuses the manipulative, but it awakens the honest. It comforts the sacred. And it resurrects what the world tried to bury in others. You used to measure yourself by how loud your presence could be, by how quickly you could dominate attention. But now, you measure your strength in silence, by how much noise you can carry without needing to respond to it. You walk into chaos and the air thickens, not because you are intimidating, but because your spirit does not flinch. You carry an unshakable knowing now, chosen one. And that knowing has made you both beautiful and untouchable. There are women who encounter your silence and immediately lower their voice, not from fear, but from reverence. Because your quiet isn't empty, it's full of authority. It's the silence of a man who no longer trades himself for attention, a man who has found value in the unseen, who has made peace with not being understood. And because of that, he now understands others more deeply than ever before. You are becoming the kind of presence that doesn't announce itself. It arrives, it radiates, and it remains. This new silence is not just a product of growth. It is the sound of arrival, the sound of presence matured, the sound of someone who does not carry noise to prove his power, but whose power quiets the noise. You are that now, and the world hears you even when you say nothing. There was a time, chosen one, when your posture told a different story. A story of seeking, a story of hiding, a story of trying to fit into shapes that were never made for you. You walked like someone hoping not to be noticed too much or rejected too harshly. Your back carried the weight of unsaid truths. Your shoulders bent under expectations you never agreed to. Your eyes searched and your feet hesitated, always measuring the space between who you were and who the world wanted you to be. But now you stand. Not just physically, but spiritually. Your posture tells a different story today. You do not slouch into rooms hoping to go unseen. You do not puff your chest to seem important. You stand as one who has nothing to prove and everything to protect, especially your peace, your truth, your time. You no longer fold your presence to make others comfortable. You extend your being with gentleness, not apology. There is dignity in your walk now. Your spine no longer bends to be accepted. It rises because it remembers who you are. This shift did not happen overnight. It was born in the crucible of being overlooked, dismissed, misunderstood. You spent years being underestimated by others, by lovers, by even yourself. But you kept standing. Even when it felt like standing made you a target, you stood anyway. And in that sacred resistance, your frame learned to carry weight without breaking. Your spirit learned to anchor without chains. Your presence learned to speak before your mouth did. And now, the way you carry yourself commands respect before you ask for it, because you don't ask anymore. You emanate worth. You radiate order. You don't demand submission. You inspire reverence. There is no arrogance in you, only clarity. And in a world starved of clarity, that alone makes you luminous. Women feel it immediately, not in their minds but in their nervous systems. They relax around you, not because you try to impress, but because you do not need to. You do not leer, you do not posture, you witness, you hold, you anchor. And that is rare. That is why they respect you now, not just because of how you look, but because of what you represent. A man who is at home in himself. A man who will not be swayed by shallow praise or shaken by loud resistance. You are not loud, but you are heard. You are not forceful, but you are felt. And the way you stand now, head high, chest open, eyes steady, tells the world that you have nothing to steal and nothing to sell. You are the offering. You are not a man trying to win respect. You are a man who has become respect embodied. Let your posture continue to testify. Let your frame carry the message your mouth no longer needs to explain. For when a man knows who he is, he doesn't have to shout. His very presence becomes prophecy. And that, chosen one, is the standing legacy you now walk in. Chosen one, there is a harmony forming within you now, one not built on outer performance, but on inner congruence. You have begun to align in places that once were fragmented. Your speech no longer contradicts your heart. Your intentions are no longer obscured by your habits. What you believe, what you pursue, and what you reflect to the world have started to move in a single rhythm. That alignment is not loud, but it is unmistakable. And that is why people, especially women, have begun to look at you with a new kind of regard. Respect is not something you beg for anymore. It is something your being now attracts without effort. Because there is a seamlessness between your energy and your choices. A man out of alignment is often clever but unstable. He speaks in gold and moves in dust. But you are no longer that man. You've crossed that line. You've become a man whose private life doesn't need to hide behind public charm, whose convictions are not announced but lived. That is rare, chosen one. In a world soaked in contradiction, your alignment has made you a mirror. When others encounter you, they see themselves more clearly, not because you expose them, but because your integrity reveals contrast. You are not perfect, and that is what makes your growth trustworthy. You have owned your shadows, and now they serve you. You have wrestled with your inner dissonance, and now you walk in inner music. That inner music is what women hear now, even when you say nothing. It's what draws their curiosity, not just to your appearance, but to your core. You are not respected merely because you are grounded. You are respected because you paid the price to get there. You have walked through seasons of disapproval, silence, and loss, and chose to keep becoming. You have had the chance to compromise, to sell your integrity for temporary desire or surface gain, and you said no. Not because you were trying to be admired, but because you were protecting something eternal in you. You said no because you knew that peace is better than performance. That self-trust is more valuable than applause. That integrity is more beautiful than attention. And now, you carry the fruit of that alignment in your gaze, your voice, your movement. You do not offer half-truths. You do not promise what your soul cannot fulfill. You speak with weight because your life has become the proof of what you believe. This is why women respect you now. Not because you flatter, not because you dominate, but because when they speak to you, they can feel they are not speaking to a role. You are not wearing a mask. You are offering a soul. Your alignment has become a sanctuary. Others feel safe in your presence because they know who they are talking to today is who they will meet tomorrow. You have become predictably authentic, and that, in a world addicted to performance, is sacred. You are not blown by every wind of opinion. You are not moved by shallow praise or hollow rejection. You know your direction. You've earned your compass. And now your energy walks ahead of you and clears the room. So continue aligning, even when no one sees. Because that unseen alignment is what now gives you unseen power. The kind that makes people pause without knowing why. The kind that draws trust before credentials are shown. The kind that walks into every space with invisible authority and leaves behind visible respect. Chosen one, there was a time when your eyes searched. Not for beauty, not for understanding, but for reassurance. For confirmation that you belonged, that you were seen, that you were desired. Your gaze, even when you masked it in confidence, betrayed a hunger for approval. It wasn't wrong, it was simply unsettled. And because of that, your eyes once carried an edge of need. Even in strength, they sought something back, but not anymore. Now your gaze does not seek, it sees. And that shift, while subtle on the outside, has redefined how the world, especially women, experience you. Because when you look at someone now, there is no tension in your eyes, no projection, no reaching. You are no longer searching for a piece of yourself in others. You are whole. So your gaze has softened, deepened, clarified. It no longer hunts, it holds. And that holding is not invasive, it's safe. This kind of gaze cannot be faked. It is born through inner peace. It is forged when a man stops needing women to reflect his worth, when he has already seen himself, clearly, courageously, and accepted both the glory and the grime. You have done that. You have stared long enough into your own depths that now, when you look at others, there is no scramble behind your eyes. Only presence, stillness, curiosity without consumption. Women feel this. They may not always be able to articulate it, but they feel it. Because in a world where many gazes are laced with agenda, your eyes are different. They aren't trying to seduce, possess, or validate. They are simply witnessing. And that is powerful. That is sacred. When a woman meets a gaze that doesn't shrink her or dissect her, but honors her, she feels it in her spirit, and she remembers it, because so few ever truly see her without needing something in return. Your gaze has become that rare mirror. It reflects truth without judgment. It does not stare to consume. It beholds to understand. It doesn't demand. It respects. And when you look into someone's eyes now, you bring your full self, not to impress, but to connect. You no longer look to be filled. You look because you are already full. And that fullness is what draws others to you, not with infatuation, but with respect. You've stopped using your eyes as tools of approval seeking. They are now instruments of discernment. You see clearly when someone is lying to themselves, when they are aching to be known, when they are exhausted from being misunderstood. And your gaze does not prey on that weakness. It blesses it. It becomes a place where masks can drop, where facades are no longer needed, because your presence is not trying to win anything. It simply holds space for what is real. So keep seeing, chosen one. Keep looking with eyes that listen and linger without invading. Because a man who can look into the soul of another without trying to rewrite it is a man the world does not forget. And you are becoming that man, one gaze at a time. Chosen one, something subtle yet profound has taken place within you. It wasn't a loud event. No crowd witnessed it, no cameras captured it. But the change is real. It echoes every time you walk into a room. The pretense is gone. The mask is down. You no longer step forward hoping to be seen through the eyes of someone else. You move with the understanding that being seen is not the goal. Being true is. That one truth has liberated your presence from performance. What you carry now is not charisma manufactured for the crowd. It is essence, real, untouched, undeniable. There is no more pretending to be what you are not, no more rehearsing conversations in your mind to fit someone else's expectations. You've stopped selling yourself in pieces. You no longer shrink your light in the presence of others' insecurity. You do not inflate your value to force acceptance. You just are. And that state of being, pure, grounded, unapologetic, is rare in a world built on projection. You've stepped outside the noise. You've stopped dancing for approval. And now the presence you carry is not something you use to get something. It's something you offer, without agenda. That's why women are noticing you differently. Not because you're trying to stand out, but because you are no longer trying at all. Your very energy tells the truth. I do not need to prove anything to be valuable. And when someone hears that in your silence, they listen. Because they trust it. Because there's no bait behind your charm. No neediness beneath your words. You are not hiding behind style or status or smiles crafted to win attention. You are anchored. People don't know why they feel calmer near you, why they trust you with thoughts they've hidden from others. But it's because your presence carries no pretense. It doesn't require performance in return. It welcomes honesty. When you speak now, your words land differently. They don't seek applause. They don't fill space just to avoid the quiet. They serve. They shape. They carry a tone that says, I know who I am, and I am here, not to dominate, but to offer. And that offering is powerful, because it's clean, it doesn't manipulate, it doesn't seduce, it simply resonates. You no longer move through life wearing a mask of success while hiding failure. You've made peace with your past, and now it can't control your future. That peace is magnetic, not because it shines brightly, but because it whispers something ancient. This man can be trusted. Women feel this shift. They recognize the difference between a man who wants to be liked and a man who respects himself too much to pretend. They respect you not just for how you treat them, but for how you carry yourself. Because presence without pretense is the most disarming energy in the world. It softens defenses, it opens hearts, it creates space for truth to breathe. And that's what you've become, a sanctuary for the authentic. So walk into every room with that quiet confidence, not because you want to be admired, but because you refuse to be anything other than real. Let others perform. Let others play roles. You, chosen one, have learned the sacred art of simply being, and that is the kind of presence the world has forgotten how to ignore. Chosen one, there was a time when your strength needed to be proven. You gripped every moment tightly, as if control was the only path to respect. You thought power meant command. That to be heard, you had to dominate. That to be admired, you had to control outcomes, people, narratives. You wanted to be the one who never lost, who always knew what to say, who could bend reality through sheer will. But beneath that need to control was fear. Fear of being exposed. Fear of being vulnerable. Fear that if you loosened your grip, you would disappear. But that's no longer who you are. You've released the illusion. You've stepped into a deeper power. One that doesn't require domination. One that doesn't cling or manipulate or impose. You've realized that true strength is not in how tightly you hold, but in how gracefully you can let go. And now, when you stand in a space, people feel your strength not as pressure, but as peace. You are no longer the man who needs to be right in every conversation. You don't need to lead every moment. You are content in stillness, comfortable in surrender. Because your strength is no longer about keeping others small, it's about being so complete within yourself that you don't need anyone to shrink for you to shine. You don't control people, you guide them. You don't overpower, you inspire. And that is what makes your presence so powerful now. Women are not drawn to you because you tower above. They are drawn because when they stand beside you, they don't feel diminished. They feel safe. Because your strength makes room. It listens. It protects without possessing. It defends without demanding. You don't use your power to silence voices. You use it to create space where voices can be heard. And in doing so, you've become a shelter in a world full of storms. You've learned that you can carry fire without burning others. That you can be thunderous without being cruel. That you can set boundaries without building walls. This is maturity. This is power refined. Your strength is not raw now. It's sacred. It moves with precision, not with force. It doesn't seek credit. It seeks clarity. It doesn't punish. It empowers. That is the rarest kind of strength. The kind that isn't loud, but is felt deeply. Your body doesn't need to tense to be respected. Your voice doesn't need to rise to be heard. You found the posture that stands on truth rather than ego. And people around you, especially women, sense that. They see that you are not a man who controls, but a man who contains. Yourself. Your emotions, your story. Your presence is a fortress, not a cage. So continue to lead from that inner stillness, from that strength that asks for nothing but radiates everything. You are not a man who demands loyalty, you earn it. You are not a man who commands affection, you invite it. And that shift from control to invitation, from domination to presence, is what makes you unforgettable. Not because you overpower others, but because you've learned how to powerfully hold yourself. That is the strength that moves mountains. That is the strength that changes rooms. That is the strength of the chosen one. Chosen one, your speech has changed. There was a time when you spoke just to be heard, when you filled the silence to avoid being swallowed by it. There was a season in your life when every word was a net, cast out to catch approval, connection, or recognition. You used your voice as armor, your vocabulary as disguise. But those days are behind you. Something has shifted. Not in the mechanics of how you speak, but in the purpose behind your voice. You no longer speak from hunger. You speak from fullness. You no longer speak to get something. You speak because something true has ripened within you, and when it opens its mouth, the room listens. There is a gravity in your voice now, a sincerity that doesn't need decoration. You don't rush to fill the air anymore, because you've realized something profound. What is real doesn't need to be loud. What is real doesn't need to convince. And so, when you speak now, your words arrive with the kind of stillness that makes people turn their heads and tune in, not because of the volume, but because of the weight. Your words carry authority, not from rehearsed wisdom, but from lived experience. They are no longer borrowed from books or sculpted to impress. They are born from your inner landscape, from battles fought in silence, from lessons etched into the marrow of your being. You speak less now, not because you have less to say, but because you've become discerning. You've seen how careless words can wound, how flattery can mislead, how empty promises echo louder than silence. And you've chosen another path. You've chosen the narrow road of honest speech. This kind of speaking is not popular. It won't always win applause, but it's the kind that awakens something ancient in people. It's the kind that builds trust, the kind that disarms suspicion, the kind that says, you don't have to pretend around me because I won't pretend around you. That's why women respond to you differently now. It's not your vocabulary. It's not your cleverness. It's your consistency. When you say something, it happens. When you offer encouragement, it heals. When you speak the truth, it lands. And when you don't know what to say, you don't fake it. You honor the silence instead. This is why you are respected, because you've become a man whose words are rare, and when they come, they are real. You no longer chase validation through conversation. You no longer try to keep attention by performing intelligence or charm. You speak when your soul stirs. You offer when your insight is ripe. You know now that the purpose of your voice is not to control perception, but to deliver clarity, healing, and truth. And people feel that. They may not be able to name it, but they lean in when you speak, not because they expect a show, but because they know they are about to receive something authentic. So continue to guard your words like sacred fire, not to hide them, but to honor them. You are not withholding, you're refining. Your voice is not absent, it is precise. You do not shout because you do not need to. The world is already noisy enough, and you, chosen one, have become the voice of clarity in that noise. A steady sound, a trusted sound, a sound that reminds people not of how impressive you are, but of how real things can be. There is something unmistakable about your presence now, chosen one. It doesn't press, it doesn't force, it doesn't beg for attention, nor does it retreat from it. It simply exists, with a kind of graceful authority that does not need to be proven. You've become someone whose very energy draws people in, not because you perform or seduce, but because you allow. You've stopped chasing outcomes, you've stopped manipulating moments, you've released the need to be wanted, and in doing so, you've become deeply wanted. There was a time when you tried to control how others felt about you. You adjusted your tone, your posture, your words, trying to calculate every moment so you wouldn't be rejected, and you drained yourself in that performance. You exhausted your spirit trying to please everyone and connect with anyone. But no more. You've stepped into a sacred posture now. One of invitation, not pursuit. One of openness, not pressure. And that posture is changing the way people, especially women, experience you. You're not walking into rooms now trying to take space. You are the space. You're not asking others to like you. You are simply being, and that being is enough. You are no longer gripping social dynamics with desperation. You are relaxing into yourself, and that relaxation is magnetic, because most people are tense. Most people are trying to be something they are not. But you, chosen one, have learned the power of self-acceptance, and your energy reflects it like a warm light through still water. This energy of invitation does not beg. It offers. It creates room. It says, you may come closer if you wish, but I do not require your presence to validate mine. That kind of energy is irresistible, not because it overpowers, but because it liberates. You make people feel free around you, not bound by expectations, not trapped by pressure, just free. And that kind of freedom is rare. Especially in a world where so many connections are built on neediness, performance, or strategy. Women feel it deeply. They aren't being lured, they're being welcomed. Not into a trap, not into manipulation, but into a moment where they can simply be, without judgment or demand. That is why your presence is being remembered long after you leave the room. because your energy didn't fight for attention. It offered something sacred, peace. You became the calm in the storm, the lighthouse in the chaos, the open door in a world of locked ones. This kind of presence cannot be mimicked. It flows from inner healing. It flows from having faced your insecurities and walked through them without pretending they weren't there. It flows from having nothing to hide and nothing to chase. You do not posture because you have nothing to prove. You do not demand because you've discovered your value is not up for negotiation. You are no longer a man who pulls energy from others to feel alive. You generate it. You create an atmosphere, a frequency, a gentle rhythm that doesn't rush or pull, but simply holds. You hold space. You hold integrity. You hold presence. And those who enter your field begin to feel more grounded in their own skin. Not because you told them to, but because your stillness gave them permission to stop pretending to. So keep walking in that quiet invitation. Keep releasing the need to impress. Keep radiating without reaching. You are not a force that pressures. You are a presence that blesses. And in a world starving for authenticity, your very existence is becoming the most attractive thing of all. Chosen one, there is a crown upon you now, though it cannot be touched or seen with mortal eyes. It is not made of metal or stone or given by human hands. This crown was earned through fire. It was woven from the days you stood alone when no one clapped, when no one understood your path, when your silence was mocked and your depth mistaken for distance. And yet, you stayed faithful to something no one else could see, your own unfolding. You refused to give up your becoming for temporary applause. You endured the ache of not being chosen, only to discover you were never meant to beg for a throne. You were born carrying one in your spirit. This crown does not shimmer to the eyes of the shallow. It glows quietly in the realm of presence, of soul, of weight. And women, especially those with depth of their own, are sensing it now. It is not the crown of dominance, but of direction. It does not scream, "Look at me." It whispers, "You are safe here." Because when you wear a crown that comes from within, you do not need a stage to validate your royalty. You become the stage. Others enter your presence and find something ancient, something noble, something real. That is why they look at you longer now. Not because of how you dress or what you drive, but because they feel the gravity in your being. They feel the decisions you made when no one was watching. They sense the discipline that didn't come from vanity, but from reverence. You are no longer ruled by impulse. You have chosen what few men dare to chase, self-governance. And now, that inner throne you sit upon speaks louder than your words. Your crown was carved through restraint, through choosing peace when ego begged for vengeance, through walking away from chaos you could have won, through choosing to become when reacting would have been easier. Your crown comes from your choices, not your charm. And so, your presence now evokes respect, not fear. Warmth, not control. Those around you may not know your story, but they feel it, the weight of it, the beauty of it, the cost of it. And that is why your energy cannot be ignored. You are not chasing queens anymore. You are not proving your worth to be seen by royalty. You have become the proof. And women, especially those who are queens in spirit, recognize a king when they feel one. They recognize the steadiness, the grace, the absence of desperation. Your crown is not for decoration, it is for protection. It reminds you that you are not here to consume or conquer. You are here to build, to guard, to lift. So wear that unseen crown with quiet dignity. Let it guide your steps, not inflate your ego. For the true king does not announce himself. He walks in alignment. And the world makes room. Chosen one, you are no longer just a man in the crowd. You have become a mirror. Not the kind that flatters or distorts. The kind that reflects what others are afraid to see but desperately need to. You are no longer just a presence. They see themselves in your eyes now. Not because you are judging them, but because you have come to peace with your own reflection. You have faced your own darkness. You have forgiven your own failures. You have walked into the quiet corners of your own soul, where most refused to go, and you returned with gold, compassion, depth, humility, truth. Now, when people speak to you, they speak differently. They speak slowly, carefully, truthfully. Not because you intimidate them, but because your presence calls forth their honesty. You are not reacting to their masks anymore. You are holding up a mirror, silently asking, Who are you without the armor? And many are answering for the first time in their lives. Women feel this most deeply. They do not see you as an object of pursuit or even as a source of affirmation. They begin to see themselves around you. They recognize their own potential, their own scars, their own radiance. Because you no longer need to possess beauty, you reflect it. You don't compete for attention. You clarify it, and that makes your presence not just attractive, but transforming. There's no longer a performance in your presence. You are not here to impress. You are not here to chase. You are here to mirror truth, and that truth is rare. It disrupts those who live in illusion. It heals those who long to come home to themselves.